Good morning, everybody. Good morning, and thank you, DJ Ohlone. Can we give some love to starting a Monday morning and a 3-day conference with this phenomenal person? I am so excited that you're all here. I'm so grateful to DJ Ohlone for starting us off. So please, in the chat over on the right-hand side, let's give some love to DJ Ohlone and her skills and her music and for starting us off right. Well, good morning. Good morning and welcome. I'm Annie Burke. I am the Executive Director of Together Bay Area, and I am so excited to be here with all of you. It goes without saying that I can't wait for the day when we're in person and sharing that chai latte and that coffee and dancing and singing together. But in the meantime, here we are online, and I'm just really, really glad that you're all here. Now I want to start us off. I want to welcome us all into this space. You are all welcome here. Come on in, take a deep breath, sit down if you've been dancing, or stand up if you want to keep dancing. Be sure to have some water, stay hydrated, and welcome. I want to, let's see if technology works for me. Is it going to work for me? You know what, that's the best it's going to do. So we're going to just run with this and think that that's what is supposed to happen. There we go. So hi, as we arrive in this space today, I just want to name something. I want to say something out loud to all of you. And that is that we have a lot of different people here today. We have people that have different lived experiences, different education levels, different economic backgrounds and situations, people who have experienced COVID in the past year and a half in different ways than you have, people who speak different languages at home, people with different skin colors and heights and weights and physical abilities and genders and gender identities. We have so much beautiful here, so much diversity and so much difference, and we're celebrating that today. And I just want to welcome you all, whoever you are, into this space, knowing that you are welcome here. I want you to, and with that, I just want to invite a few things as you come into the Together Bay Area Spring Summit. You're entering a space that is different and that is celebrating difference, and that we need our differences in order to deal with all the things that we're dealing with, to be climate resilient, to build a more just and equitable world. And so I invite you to come into this space with curiosity, with respect, with love. And I'm really excited for all who's here today and what you're all going to bring. And I just really want to support that and welcome you all in. So Together Bay Area is a membership powered coalition. And we're all working for healthy lands, healthy people, and healthy communities. We're working on transformation, not just transactions. We're focused on relationships with the land, with place, with people, with communities. And there are a lot of people involved in this, a lot of people at Together Bay Area. Yes, I'm the one on the stage right now, but there's so many people involved in this organization, and I just want to name some of them and welcome them, bring them here into this space as well. I see some of them are here in the chat, but just want to say overall, so that you all know how many people are involved in making Together Bay Area. Well, one is all of our members. We have 69 member organizations in the 9 counties of the Bay Area plus Santa Cruz, so 10 counties. And on our website, you can see the full list. I'm not going to name all 69. We also have a fabulous board of directors, several of whom are here, and I'm just really grateful for them. It's a really dedicated group of people who care about stewarding Together Bay Area as an organization, and I'm just really grateful to be working with our board of directors. So thank you, and if you're here, you can see, or if you wanted to wave your hand in the stage chat, you are welcome to do that. We also have a very active policy committee, and I know there's a lot of people here who serve on our policy committee. If you want to raise your virtual hand and say hi, that would be great. For the past few months, we've been meeting every week talking about all kinds of things that are happening legislatively, and they're part of making Together Bay Area happen. We also have a really awesome finance committee. I know that's not usually what people talk about, but it's true. We have a really great finance committee. And we also have on staff now, somebody you'll meet in a few minutes, Ariana Rickard, who is our political director. I'm really thrilled to be working with her. And I really look forward to all of you having a chance to meet her and learn from her. She'll come on in just a second. And then we also have Tom Robinson, who has been a part of this community for a long time, and you'll hear from him. And so there's just a lot of people with Together Bay Area, board, policy committee, all the people. Today in the Spring Summit, I also want to just say that the Spring Summit is community driven. It's community supported. We have a lot of people that are here making this happen, including some really amazing speakers. This picture is not all of the speakers. We have 26 speakers lined up for you over the next 3 days. I couldn't put all 26 pictures in this one slide, but I want you to know that these people are amazing. They're taking time out of their days and out of their very busy schedules to share their ideas, their perspectives, their wisdom with you. I'm really, really grateful. I'm also really grateful for our sponsors. So Peninsula Open Space Trust, thank you. To the Trust for Public Land and WRA, thank you. To HT Harvey and Associates, SRT Consultants, Ascent Environmental, Shoot Mahali and Weinberger, thank you. And also thank you to Conservation Partners and Placeworks. This event is possible because of you, and thank you so much for your support in making this possible. Also want to give a shout out to our event team behind the scenes, Galas at Home, who's helping make this work and technology. So thank you to Galas at Home. And one more time, DJ Ome, for bringing some energy and some dancing moves to make this a lively and really fun event. Thank you so much. So everything we do at Together Bay Area is grounded in the land, pun totally intended. We're talking about urban, rural, natural, and working lands that have been stewarded for thousands of years, lands that feed us, that nourish us, and during the past year and a half especially, have been so important for our physical and mental health. Together Bay Area is working intentionally to honor the original stewards of these lands and build our collective capacity for healing, for relationships, for reciprocity. We are all today standing or sitting on Indigenous land. And so I'm honored to introduce to you all and welcome to the stage Chairman Charlene Nijmeh and Councilwoman Monica Arellano from the Muwékma Ohlone tribe of the San Francisco Bay Area. And here they come. And they're going to join us. Oops, sorry, Bryce. Thank you. Love you. So I want to welcome them and to this space, and please join me in welcoming Chairwoman Nijmeh and Councilmember Arellano.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting us to be in this space with you all. I'd like to start by reading our land acknowledgement. So Makimak Muwékma, Makimak Muwékma Wulwulum, Agoit Makwade, Mani Makishwe. We are Muwékma Ohlone. Welcome to our ancestral homeland. We would like to recognize that while we gather for the Together Bay Area 2021 Spring Summit located in Berkeley, California, we are gathered on the ethno-historic tribal territory of the intermarried Huchun, Halkin, Chochenyo Ohlone speaking tribal groups, who were the direct ancestors of most of the lineages enrolled in the Muwékma Ohlone tribe of the San Francisco Bay Area, who were missionized into missions San Jose, Santa Clara, and San Francisco. The present-day Muwékma Ohlone tribe, with a Bureau of Indian Affairs documented enrolled membership of over 600 members, is comprised of all the known surviving Indian lineages aboriginal to the San Francisco Bay region, who can trace our tribe's ancestry through the missions Santa Clara, San Jose, and San Francisco during the advent of the Hispano-European Empire into the Alto California beginning in AD 1769. Our Muwékma families are the successors and living members of the sovereign, historic, previously federally recognized Verona Band of the Alameda County, now formally recognized as the Muwékma Ohlone tribe of the San Francisco Bay Area. Muwékma means la gente, the people in our traditional Chochenyo Ohlone language. The land on which the Together Bay Area Spring Summit is taking place in Berkeley was and continues to be of great importance and significance for our Muwékma Ohlone tribal people. This region extends to surrounding areas that held several tupentaks, traditional semi-subterranean spiritual roundhouses. Tupentaks were places of celebrations, healing, rituals, dances, and intertribal feasts and religious ceremonies. This region also extends to nearby ancestral heritage shell mound sites, such as the West Berkeley and Emeryville shell mound sites adjacent to Temescal Creek. Shell mound sites served as the tribe's territorial monuments and traditional cemetery sites for high lineage families, craft specialists, and fallen warriors. The city of Berkeley, where the Together Bay Area Spring Summit is being held, is where many of our tribe's ancestral heritage cemetery and village sites are located. These localities are viewed as special and sacred places, and we respectfully acknowledge that they have been previously settled and controlled by our ancestral Muwékma tribal groups for many thousands of years. Today, our Muwékma Ohlone tribal leadership and members work as stewards for many of our up to 10,000-year-old ancestral heritage village and cemetery sites, such as the location of the nearby Fairmont County Hospital in San Leandro. To the south was the place of one of the tribe's major rancherias called the Springs, during the late 1800s, where our families planted various crops and raised cattle until our people were forced off our lands. As previously mentioned, the city of Berkeley is established within our Muwékma ancestral Huchun Halkin Ohlone tribal ethno-historical territory, which, based on the 18 unratified federal treaties of 1851 and 1852, includes the traditional ancestral lands of the Muwékma tribe of the San Francisco Bay Area. Mission San Francisco, San Jose records document that many of our enrolled Muwékma lineages are directly descended from the Huchun, Halkin, Chochenyo, Ohlone Speakle tribal groups, as well as from neighboring Ohlone tribes. It is important that not only we recognize the history of the land of the Huchun, Halkin, on which we gather to participate, learn, and honor, but also recognize that the first people of this region, our Muwékma Ohlone people, are alive and thriving members of the Berkeley and broader Bay Area communities today. Even though our tribe was denied a land base due to the gross negligence of derelict BIA officials after the tribe was first recognized in 1906, it is because of the tenacity and strength of our ancestors and our elders that our people have been able to maintain our identity and traditions and keep our culture and language alive. Furthermore, our Muwékma Ohlone families have never left our indigenous ancestral lands. Today, we repair the sustained damages of over 250 years of colonization. We are focused on keeping our traditional cultural strong while we gather for a bright and favorable future for our children as we follow in the footsteps of our ancestors. We respectfully request that the good citizens of the city of Berkeley and surrounding towns strive to be faithful stewards on behalf of the Muwékma Ohlone tribe by maintaining the bay, fresh waterways, native plants, animal habitats, and the air we all breathe. Furthermore, we request that the city of Berkeley and surrounding towns within Alameda County honor the military service of the Muwékma men and women who have honorably served overseas during World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Desert Storm, Iraq, and are still serving in the United States Armed Forces today, and honor the tribal veterans and service members from California, North and South Americas who have served this country with dignity and honor. In closing, it is of great importance to acknowledge the significance of this Holshe Wadip, beautiful land to the indigenous Muwékma Ohlone people of this region. We ask everyone who attends Together Bay Area 2021 Spring Summit and those who live or visit the city of Berkeley to be respectful of these Aboriginal lands and natural habitats within our traditional homeland, and consistent with our principles of community and diversity, strive to be good stewards on behalf of the Muwékma Ohlone tribe, on whose land you are guests. Thank you, and on behalf of the Muwékma Ohlone tribe, we hope to celebrate and honor and stand in solidarity with all Indigenous people with their struggles to reverse the adverse colonial legacies affecting all people of color in Berkeley, the Bay Area, California, the United States, and the Americas, as we gather and reflect on sacred lands of the Muwékma Ohlone. Ho.
Poshituhi, Kanak Raka, Monica Villarreano, Huertas Cuchush, Muwékma Wulwulam, San Francisco Bay Area Thought. Good day. I greet you in our native Chochenyo language. My name is Monica Villarreano. I am the Vice Chairwoman for the Muwékma Ohlone tribe of the San Francisco Bay Area. Kanamin Kanak Apakush Joel, Chocho Kanak Papakush Albert, Chocho Kanak Melekush Mercedes, Kanak Suyakma Marin. I am the daughter of Joel Arellano, granddaughter of Albert Marin Arellano, and great-granddaughter of Mercedes Marin. I am from the Marin lineage. On behalf of our people, Muwékma, La Gente, we would like to offer an official welcoming to our ancestral homeland, to this ethno-historic tribal territory of the intermarried Huichin, Halkin, Chochenyo Ohlone speaking tribal group. Today, the city of Berkeley and surrounding towns reside in our Huichin ancestral Muwékma territory. We welcome everyone to the Together Bay Area 2021 Spring Summit. We welcome everyone to our Holshe Wadip, beautiful ancestral homeland. As traditionally done and in honor of our ancestors, we offer an opening prayer in our native Chochenyo language as a blessing for today's event. Muwékma Isai Chochenyo, the people's prayer in Chochenyo. Exuyakma, Ekatrokma, Ruhi, Hoshe Roket, Tamakam, Kamhaigne Nomo, Hemetamakin, Makrote Himetka, Makin Mak Alshik, Takamishik, Hitinomo, Hemen Heishmin, Menehishmet, Ki Mishmakin, Makish Horshe Makinan, Tamakrote Himetka, Markierku, Ruai, Tamakami Aye, Tamakrote Himetka, Makin Makinan, Tamakrote Himetka, Holye Mak Makduye, Hemeta Makin Hishmetzin, Makish Hoshe Makinan, Utashmut Makan Makiwe. Thank you. Take care of yourselves. We have finished. Aho.
Thank you so much for being here, for your persistence, for your resilience, for your leadership. I'm beyond honored and thrilled and humbled that the Muwékma Ohlone tribe of San Francisco Bay Area is a member of Together Bay Area. And I think we're just getting started in the healing and the working together and the building of partnerships and the building capacity. So thank you so much, Chairwoman Nijmeh and Vice Chairwoman Arellano. I'm really grateful to you both. So thank you. Today, we're coming together as things, when things are hard, when things are challenging, and it's cliche by now to say how challenging the past year and a half has been. But we're also here to find the ways of working together, of finding new pathways, of transforming how we live together in community, in spaces. We're talking about building community. How do you do that, especially in this online world? But how do we do that in a place or in the idea of a place? And our next speaker is going to talk about this, and I'm really excited for this conversation. The Black Neighborhood is an organization created from the hearts and minds and experiences of 5 Black men native to Richmond and Oakland, California. And I'm going to be in conversation with Bryce Savoy, an independent rapper, an entrepreneur from Oakland. In the May of 2015, he graduated from Howard University in Washington, D.C. Now you have a very famous fellow alumna in the White House. So please join me for a conversation with Bryce. Hi, Bryce. How are you doing today?
How's it going? Can you hear me okay?
I sound great.
Perfect.
How are you?
Yeah. Good morning. I'm good. How you doing?
Doing okay.
Happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
So Bryce, one of the themes of this Spring Summit and the work that we're doing is love.
Yeah.
Love for people, love for place. Can you tell us about the Black neighborhood, what it is, and how love fits into that, and in the work that you're doing?
Absolutely. So kind of how you already touched up on, the Black neighborhood is a nonprofit worldwide community organization that started in the Bay Area in 2017 upon me and my 4 childhood friends all graduating from undergrad. We all came back home to kind of recenter ourselves, kind of get reacclimated to home, and just figure out what next steps we wanted to take. And so one of the main things we knew, as kind of seeing the injustices that we've been seeing our whole lives, and kind of growing up in environments where they're amplified and magnified, like to your point, we wanted to be a source of love, a source of hope, understanding where we come from, but also understanding how far we've been, and to go. And so it really started with us wanting just to help our community. Started on a small level of doing grocery giveaways, to fast forward to now where we have our first ever scholarship fund, just a lot of different initiatives that's all centered around love and just camaraderie and community, which I'm sure we'll get into. But just kind of a plethora of all of those things. Wanting to kind of be that change that we wanted to see and that we didn't see growing up. Kind of wanted to make a difference in our communities, essentially.
That's great. We talk a lot about place with Together Bay Area members. These lands. We've just heard from the Muwékma Ohlone about this place. We talk about parks and trails and watersheds and beaches. Can you talk about what neighborhood means? It's in the name of your organization. Where is it? Is it a place? I'd love to hear about the word neighborhood in particular, and about place.
Yeah, so more so than it being a physical location, it's more of a mental place, a mental location, if you will. One of the things when we first started, and how I even came up with the name, the Black neighborhood, it came from a family friend. We were just in the car driving one day in Washington D.C. at Howard in that area. And he kind of just was just breaking, certain things down to me. But when it came to community and neighborhood, he was like, you got to think of everything from a mentality standpoint as a, Black neighborhood. And you're able to bring that feeling of inclusion, of love, of togetherness everywhere you go. And so that's something that we've adopted as an organization. It's like I could be in another other side of the country. I could be in I don't know, New York, California, wherever we're at, the neighborhood, that neighborhood feeling is with us. It's about, just having a sense of respect for self, respect for others, of love, of togetherness, all of these different ideals and qualities that you think of when you think of a neighborhood in the utopian sense of the word. Mm-hmm. So we kind of like try to bring that same mentality and same, overall mind state wherever we go, and bring that sense of community with us, because it's important that especially how the world is set up, and so many crazy and chaotic things going on in the world, that we provide an outlet for people to just kind of like be themselves, and kind of be just free in the sense of not being binded down by just the pressures and the overall conditions that affect this world in general. And so that's kind of when we want. That's kind of like the idea of the Black neighborhood, and why it's so important to do what we do.
I hear connection in there. There's so much disconnection, or pulling apart, or pitting people against each other, and you're one of the things I hear in what you're saying is let's, I know it's cliche for me to say as at an organization called Together Bay Area, but to be together.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I mean, but I think to your point, and that's why it's so, important to do the work that you are all doing, is that we realize once we kind of like, put our ego, our pride or resentment, and rightfully so in certain situations, though you have those feelings, but once you kind of just, get down to the bare bones of who people are and you have a, genuine conversation between anybody, you can kind of see that they're more often than not that there's more similarities than differences. And so it's really important for us to highlight that in all of the work that we do, but at the same time be I guess just adamant and direct about serving our people, our community, because that doesn't happen often. So that's kind of what we want to do.
Yeah, that's great. I've been following the Black neighborhood on Instagram, and if for those watching, if you're not, I recommend that you do. And one of the things that struck me, it didn't strike me, it really resonated with me, are some of the pictures of some of the hikes and time outdoors that you and your co-founders in the Black neighborhood have been leading. Tell us about getting outdoors and the role of getting outside, whether you call that a hike or a walk or whatever you call it, but that time outdoors. And tell us about some of that work.
Well, yeah, so that kind of like the hikes and the different outdoor activities that you mentioned, that all spawned from an initiative we kind of created, what we did create, in the midst of COVID. Black Mental Health Matters. Like, there was a lot of stuff with, obviously you have, just for everybody, how if the world was affected by COVID and pandemic and the quarantine. So you had that, and then you also had, right in the heat of all of that, the murder of George Floyd on camera. And so I think just mentally, we were just, all of us, I say all of us, my friend group, people I know and people that I associated with, just from a mental standpoint, we were drained. It was just emotionally and mentally a lot for all of us. And so we figured, as we got amongst the group, the first thing, before we even got, to the hikes and the outdoor activities, we wanted to figure out how can we be effective with all of these restrictions, with all of the things that's going on, with everything being shut down. And so one of the easiest things that we thought of was to do these mental health hikes, to where we go to a different location in the Bay Area, in Los Angeles, and have a space, provide a space for people to just get outdoors. Annie, I'm sure, and everybody else in here in the chat, like how important just getting out, outdoors and just being in nature is for your mental. And it's like, we can't do, I feel like we fail to realize as a people that we can't do any of the things that we want to do in life if our mentals, is not in the best shape that it can be. And so with the hikes, that's been the overall like purpose for us, is kind of get outdoors, kind of just, just be free and be one with nature. And the fact that a lot of our hikes and activities that we do, it's a networking thing as well, because people come and you're going to end up talking and communicating with somebody that you haven't previously spoken to or even met. And so that's why it's just so important and beneficial for us to continue to do it and continue to get outdoors. And really, quick plug, just to add on that. So our next hike, TBN hike number 6, will be in the Bay Area, in El Cerrito next Saturday. So May 15th, we will, obviously put more info and details on our Instagram this week, but that'll be our next hike. And so, anybody in this chat, more than welcome to come, kind of get outdoors.
That's so great. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of, I'm guessing that there are a lot of people here watching saying, how can I partner with the Black neighborhood? Like how, there's a lot of work to do to connect all people and make spaces that are safe and for people of all kinds, especially Black people in nature. So I'm guessing a lot of people are saying, my agency or my nonprofit we should call Bryce. And I think that's great. I mean, that's one
Yeah.
reason why we're doing this. But I also want to ask you, what do you need? What does the Black neighborhood need to continue doing its work so that it isn't about the partner, it isn't about the agency, but it's about you and about making sure that the Black neighborhood as an organization, as a network is strong. So I'd love to hear what you have to say about that.
Yeah, I think that, like you said, and we get, obviously, ask that question a lot, or just have people reach out, for potential partnerships. But I think for us, and what is kind of still, as we're in the process of growing and scaling up and kind of just learning how we're navigating as an organization, for us, it's really, really important that we fully solidify our identity as an organization, as what we're trying to do and what we're trying to build. Because what we've experienced, I know it's not the the end all be all experience, but a lot of times we get people wanting to partner with us, but what it ends up being is us doing the work, and people kind of attaching themselves to us because they know that it's special. We know what we have is powerful, but I think, at least in our experience, again, what we've seen is that people lose sight of the dirty work, the stuff that it really takes to to create. Because I think people get sidetracked by the fact that although we're structured as a nonprofit is still ran like a business.
That's right.
So you still have to do certain things and make sure all checks and balances are in order for us to be sufficient. So I say all that to say, I think for us really right now it's about just getting exposure. And that could be something simple as sharing what we do, sharing our website, coming to an event, or buying merchandise, so whatever that can be done to continue to allow us to scale up. And then if you whoever's watching this may really check out what we do and get a strong feel for what we are about. If you do feel like there's alignment to that, I would just say make sure you come to the table with a clear idea as to what the ask is and what's the time commitment, because that's the thing. It's like we're, and as you know, outside of just running a nonprofit, we have personal lives, we have other things that we're doing. And so we just don't want to get sidetracked to the point where a lot of stuff, we get opportunities, but it becomes more of a time commitment than I think we're prepared for. And we're not at this level where we're working towards that. We're not at the level that we don't have like a 20, 30 person team. It's literally just a six of us, and then, people that help us in our community. So I would just say exposure, helping us getting to a bigger audience, exposing us to different people that we may have not had come in contact with, and then really just from a structural standpoint, continuing to just build in and do what we can to scale up at a efficient and I think a organized way is the best thing.
That's great. Thank you.
That's a great question too.
Well, it's one of the things we want to be talking about is reciprocity.
Yeah.
I have a tongue twister kind of a relationship with that word, but reciprocity, that it is that things need to go in both directions. We know there's give and take, and that we have different things to give and we have different things that we need. So thank you for sharing that. And it's also something that we're going to be talking about more on Thursday morning. We have a panel set up to talk about partnerships between public agencies and nonprofits, and that really around equity and respect and reciprocity. All right, my final question for you, quickly, what gives you joy?
What gives me joy? I think what gives me joy more so than anything is being able to live in my purpose as much as possible from day to day. Like me being able to do something like this, which is an extension of my purpose, obviously, because I'm representing an organization that I helped create. Like being able to do stuff like that and not be, I think, pigeonholed or limited to this, idea of a society or where you just work a 9-to-5 job, you collect a pension, retirement, just the traditional, I think, America's way of saying this is how things should be, this is how life should go. And I understand we live in a capitalistic society, so money is, a factor in a lot of this stuff. But I say more so than anything, just being able to, like I said, to use my purpose to just empower and uplift my people, my community, my city on a day-to-day basis. I say that's probably, number one, will give me most joy, but then also, like, at the same time, just knowing that I am building and working towards leaving behind a legacy that'll precede my life in the physical form.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's very, very important. I grew up, quite frankly, in environments and just in my life that I've lost a lot of people who died young and didn't get to live out their full potential. And so knowing that, understanding that, it's like, I know now that every single day counts, and that everything that I do is in hopes of when I pass away, I'll have something to leave behind, and that'll last forever. And so I think that those are the main things, man, for me. So
Thank you, Bryce. Thank you for reminding us that joy isn't necessarily the same as happy. Joy is it can be, but it also is heart. There's a lot of heart in joy, and purpose, in terms of what are we doing, and with our life, this one wild and precious life. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being a real source of light and positivity and connection in the context of the systemic racism and in capitalism, as you mentioned, as in these structures that exist, finding that light, finding that connection and joy, and building it, and not just doing it in yourself, but building an organization to spread that out farther. So thank you so much for being here, and I look forward to working with you more. And I hope that you'll stick around, and folks can ask you some questions over there in the chat, or they can direct message you over there too. So thank you.
No, thank you, and I appreciate you once again for this opportunity. It's a great event, and I know that it's going to be, as the days progress, it's going to be even more special. So I'm honored to be a part of it.
Thank you, Bryce. All right.
Yeah.
So now we're going to pivot, and I'm going to ask for Bryce, for you to join the crowd, to leave the stage, which feels very awkward to say. But
No problem. I'll do that now.
And then I'm going to welcome up our next speakers. So in that purpose, let's use that as our segue from our life's purpose to also purpose in terms of strategy and achieving things and working together as a region. We're going to talk next about some of the strategic planning and strategic conservation work has happened in the region for many years, and how it connects to something big that's happening now across our country and here in the state, with the conserving 30% by 2030, or 30 by 30 by shorthand. And so I'm really thrilled to introduce two folks who are going to speak to you for a little bit to talk more about that. So I'm first thrilled to introduce Arellano Rickard, who's our new political director, and Tom Robinson. Good morning. Really thrilled to have you both here. Ariana is in her 4th week here at Together Bay Area, so really excited to have you on board. She brings experience working with coalitions, working in policy, working on equity, and just really thrilled that you're here. And one of Ariana's priorities as she starts in this role will be the 30 by 30 initiative here in California. And she's going to be in conversation here with Tom Robinson, who perhaps many of you know. He's worked in this field for, I'm not going to count years, Tom, but for a while, and has been the project director of the Conservation Lands Network. And these two people are really phenomenal, really excited to hear them talk about 30 by 30 and what the Bay Area is doing. So with that, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Annie. Can everyone hear me okay? So, I
can hear you just fine, Ariana.
Okay, good.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, and I can hear you, Tom. Excellent.
Okay, great.
So first, Tom, how are you?
I'm doing really well. Thank you for asking. Really excited to be a part of the summit, and just really excited to hear the speakers and was just absolutely grooving with the DJ Ohlone. Yeah, so it's just a thrill to be here and to see how this thing came together, even though we're all still doing this stuff remotely. So yeah, how are you, Ariana?
Good. I mean, I love the DJ. I love the Hamilton cover because I love Hamilton, so that made me happy. From the Hamilton mixtape, I mean, not the Hamilton cover. Yeah, so as Annie mentioned, we're going to talk about 30 by 30. So as many of our participants, I'm sure, have heard about on the national and state level, there's this big goal, conserve 30% of our lands and coastal waters by 2030. So Tom, what is 30 by 30?
Yeah, well, these are ambitious goals. You're right. These are big, ambitious goals set by the state and federal leadership. And they're really here to they're here to spur action toward getting our collective house in order before the impacts of climate change make it really difficult to do so. Of course, our house in this situation are all the natural lands and waters that surround our cities, our forests, our rangelands, our watersheds, all the places that we depend on. And we depend on these places for our well-being. One of the tried and true principles of ecology is that healthy, connected ecosystems function better. And they do a better job of taking care of us, better job than fragmented, degraded, dewatered ecosystems. So sort of the public policy response to the understanding that climate change is putting, and it will put even more pressure on the natural resources that we need to survive. It's not unlike Kennedy's 1961 proclamation to land humans safely on the moon by the end of the decade. It's a bold goal to inspire action.
I like that framing. I like the comparison to the 61 proclamation. I mean, you're right. It's inspiring, it's uniting, it's what we can all be working towards, and maybe we will achieve the goal, ahead of the deadline of 2030. So how are Together Bay Area members serving and participating in the state's 30 by 30 initiative?
Well, we're just starting our participation, but we see the Together Bay Area really playing three roles that we hope will make the initiative successful. The first, of course, is the Bay Area Conservation Lands Network, or CLN for short. The CLN is the Bay Area's biodiversity conservation strategy. It's a unique, locally vetted blueprint for conserving half the Bay Area by 2050. And it tries to answer that difficult question, which half? So what does it look like on a map if we want that 50% to house a full assemblage of the region's habitats? And so its purpose, you can think of it as trying to help or guide all the many on-the-ground agencies and organizations work toward a common goal, like boats rowing in the same direction. And the cool thing is, sort of its special sauce is that the framework and content developed for Conservation Lands Network was developed organically, sort of from the bottom up, with lots of people involved. And I think at this point, over 140 local practitioners and scientists from all around the region have helped give it life. It's been around for 16 years, and it was just updated in late 2019. So we have a ton to share. We have lessons learned to share with the 30 by 30 managers. We have lots of data and priorities. But really, the key is to share what we've experienced as a region, developing a big goal like this and working toward it. Important things like how we made mid-course corrections, how to keep an initiative like this alive and sort of a living process.
Yeah, so it sounds like, oh, sorry, go ahead. I was just going to say, it's a regional version of what the state's trying to do at a national scale.
That's exactly right. That's a great way to think of it. It's a regional version of what the state is trying to do. And it's something that, as I said, really sort of happened organically many years ago, sort of putting our collective heads together and saying, what we need is not only we need strategic data, but we need an ambitious goal for all of us to work toward. And what's that?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, the second prong there.
Yeah, the second thing is so the CLN, has been around for 16 years. More recently, the CLN was sort of vacuumed up by a thing called the Bay Area Green Print, which Whereas the CLN does a deep dive on biodiversity, the Greenprint goes broad. It covers a full range of nature's values and benefits. So like I said, it uses the biodiversity data and priorities from the Conservation Lands Network, but then it layers things like recreation and health and climate benefits and urban greening. And so there's a ton to share with the 30 by 30 managers on that front as well, not just the science and data and methods of kind of bringing multiple benefits together and covering that full range of nature's values and benefits. But most importantly, how those data were interpreted with the help of many, many advisors, many of whom are probably on the call with us today or on the summit today, who helped us make those data interpreted, accessible, understandable, and no barriers to access. And this is definitely the wave of the future, is things like the Conservation Lands Network and Greenprint, making information accessible to folks who, don't have an advanced degree in ecology or GIS or anything like that. Like, let's make these data understandable for the folks on the ground doing the hard work. And speaking of that, the third, of course, is probably the most important way for Together Bay Area to play a role and to help 30 by 30 be successful is through our members and convenings. Together Bay Area's 69 members and growing of engaged and motivated organizations is our greatest asset. It's our greatest strength. And it's wonderful, and we're fortunate to have tools like CLN and Greenprint. But action only happens when on-the-ground folks are in the know and engaged. So we'll have convenings around 30 by 30 and play a connector role between the 30 by 30 managers and the members of Together Bay Area.
Yeah, we can do events similar to something like this, and we can also share information through our communication channels on our website and emails to try to build the buy-in and the credibility for the state initiative. And you also mentioned we can share the lessons learned. And are there demonstration projects that we'd want to share with the state?
Yeah, I mean, think about looking at what the state is trying to promote are multi-benefit projects. So start with the biodiversity, understand that we ain't creating more species anytime soon. In fact, the trend is toward losing species. And so, use that as a motivator, but, growing food and sequestering carbon and lowering the risk of natural hazards to communities are all things that nature does for us. And so we need to help nature do that for us. So here in the Bay Area, our projects are inherently multi-benefit. Every project in the Bay Area has multiple benefits to communities. And that's just a part of our geography. It's part of our distribution of our communities. And so we're actually a really neat region as a kind of a hotbed of demonstration projects. Things like Coyote Valley, for instance, last remaining connection between the Santa Cruz Mountains and the Diablo Range, groundwater recharge, central wildlife corridor, scenic croplands, you name it, things like that. So many other places around the Bay Area feature multiple benefits. And so we can connect the folks who are on the ground working on those projects with the 30 by 30 managers to demonstrate what it looks like to put a multi-benefit project together and what goes into it and how to promote it.
Thanks, Tom. And how can our attendees learn more about the Conservation Lands Network?
Why, they can visit not just the CLN booth in the demo hall, but they can also go to bayarealands.org. And while you're there, click on the Explore button and play around with the interactive map. If you have an area of interest, click a boundary around that area of interest and run a report, which we call the Conservation Portfolio Report, and gives you lots of information about that area. Again, with the emphasis on interpretation of data. It's great to have all the data, but if it doesn't make sense to us practitioners, then it has less meaning. You can go to learn about the Bay Area Greenprint. You can go to bayareagreenprint.org. That also has just a phenomenal interactive tool developed by Green Info Network. Play around with that tool.
Wonderful, fantastic resources out there. So last question,
For sure.
what gives you joy?
What gives me joy is, I know this is cliche, but is to just be outside in our open spaces. The pandemic has only heightened the value of our open spaces. And my favorite place on the planet is Point Reyes National Seashore, and I'm going there this weekend to do a little kayak camping, and that brings me a tremendous amount of joy.
Thanks, Tom. And with that, I'm going to turn it back to Annie.
Thanks, Ariana.
Thank you both. Anybody, maybe in the chat, we could give some love to Point Reyes. Anybody else going there, been there recently? Would love to hear from you. So thank you, Tom. Thank you, Ariana. Thank you, everybody who's spoken so far this morning, and all of the chats that are happening. I love it. Interaction is what we want across these 3 days of the Spring Summit. That is how we've designed this entire thing.